Okay, let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today into something that feels like it's just exploded into the mainstream conversation. AI agents.
Yeah, it feels like it went from sci-fi to, well, right here, almost overnight.
Exactly. And these aren't just, smarter versions of ChatGPT. We're talking about autonomous systems designed to actually do things.
And understanding them feels pretty urgent, doesn't it? Because the potential impact isn't just on tech. It looks like it could reshape, well, everything. Jobs, society.
Maybe even how we see ourselves. It's that big.
Definitely a shift that demands a serious look,
Yeah.
especially with how fast it seems to be moving. Way faster than maybe we thought.
Absolutely. And to really get a handle on the scale of this and the sheer range of possibilities, good and bad, we're diving into a specific, really pivotal conversation.
Oh, you mean that debate hosted by Steven Bartlett?
That's the one, titled, and get this, AI Agents Emergency Debate. These jobs won't exist in 24 months. We must prepare for what's coming.
Wow. Yeah, that title sets the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
High stakes.
It really does. And it brought together three really interesting perspectives. You had Amjad Masad.
The founder of Replit, yeah. So the guy actually building this stuff?
Right. Then Brett Weinstein, the evolutionary biologist, complex systems thinker.
Bringing that broader, maybe more cautious, biological and systemic view.
And Daniel Priestley, the entrepreneur, focused on, how this actually plays out for businesses, for individuals on the ground.
So the builder, the theorist, and the practitioner, basically. A great mix.
A really great mix. And their discussion just cut right to the chase on what these AI agents could mean. For me, personally, this whole thing hit home pretty recently.
Oh.
Yeah, like, I'd use ChatGPT, obviously. You ask, it answers. Simple enough. But the whole agent thing, this autonomous action, I was a bit skeptical, honestly.
I think it's just hype buzzwords.
Kind of, yeah. Amjad Masad even used the term vibe coding. Felt a bit like that. Until I actually tried it.
It takes seeing it, doesn't it?
It totally does. My big aha moment came using Replit, Amjad Masad's platform, which, by the way, is incredible. Lets anyone build software.
Right.
So I have basically zero coding skills, right?
Right.
But I jumped on there, and within minutes, I'm like building a website, putting in payment stuff, AI features, Google login.
Seriously. With no coding.
Seriously. I even spun up this little experimental SaaS company, and a friend actually paid for it. Put his credit card in.
See, that's exactly Amjad Masad's point, isn't it? Removing that friction.
Completely. Between having an idea and making it real, democratizing creation, wealth, all of that.
For anyone, anywhere, that's the vision.
But the real agent moment, the thing that made me go, whoa, was simpler. I used this AI agent online called Operator.
Okay.
And I just gave it a goal. Get me some water from a local store. It took my credit card details, figured out the store, placed the order online, added a tip, delivery notes, everything.
It did all that autonomously.
All of it. The delivery guy shows up, hands me the water. He never spoke to me, only the AI. When that doorbell rang, I swear, I felt this jolt. It felt powerful, almost unsettling.
Yeah, that's the core of it, isn't it? The agent achieving the goal on its own.
Yes. And that debate, it just perfectly captures that feeling, that huge tension. You've got Amjad Masad and Daniel Priestley talking about this infinite potential for good.
Healthcare breakthroughs, education transformation, empowering entrepreneurs.
Right. But then Brett Weinstein steps in and says, hold on, the potential for harm might be, and this is his phrase, a bigger infinity.
A bigger infinity, wow.
Yeah, 10 times the infinite potential for good.
Right.
That's a heavy thought.
It really puts a damper on the pure optimism, doesn't it? Makes you think about the downside risk in a whole new way.
So first things first, let's make sure we're crystal clear. What is an AI agent, according to this discussion? How's it different from, say, Siri or Alexa?
Well, the way Amjad Masad broke it down was key. Unlike a chatbot where it's request response, request response.
Right. You ask, it answers, then it waits.
Exactly. An agent gets a goal, and then it can work autonomously for, well, a while. And crucially, it uses tools.
Tools like
a web browser to look things up, a coding environment like Replit to write software, or even, like in your example, access to a credit card to buy something.
Ah, okay. So it interacts with the digital world, maybe even the physical world indirectly?
Precisely. It figures out the steps it needs to take, executes them, and decides when the goal is met or maybe when it needs to ask for help.
So the autonomy and the action in the world are the big differentiators. My water agent did the ordering. It didn't just tell me how.
That's it. And Amjad Masad added this really critical point about how fast they're improving. He said the time an agent can run autonomously.
How long it can work on its own.
Yeah. Right now, maybe it's around 30 minutes, give or take. But based on the research trajectory, he said the duration is doubling roughly every 7 months.
Wait, doubling every 7 months. So 30 minutes becomes an hour, then 2, then 4.
Keep going. Soon as days. That's his projection.
Days of autonomous work.
And that's the game changer, isn't it? That's when it stops being a neat trick and starts having potentially massive, real-world consequences. Very quickly.
Okay, which brings us squarely to that potential. The upside they discuss.
Right, the optimistic view. And Amjad Masad's vision here is really compelling. He sees these agents basically dissolving the friction between thinking of something and making it happen.
Building it, creating wealth from it.
Exactly. His whole thing with Riplet and what agents supercharge is lowering that barrier. So anyone, anywhere, with a good idea and the drive, the merit, can build stuff, build businesses, without needing to be a master coder or have venture capital.
Like my little SAS experiment, it felt like magic.
That's the democratization he's aiming for. And both he and Daniel Priestley pointed to even bigger potential wins, didn't they?
Yeah, things like huge leaps in global healthcare or making quality education accessible everywhere, things that feel almost intractable now.
Phenomenal potential positive impacts.
Amjad Masad even threw out the idea that AI could boost global IQ, or even EQ, emotional intelligence, by helping people communicate better, maybe translate ideas more clearly.
And Daniel Priestley framed it as empowerment, right? Hyper-creativity for entrepreneurs, giving individuals the kind of leverage only huge companies used to have.
So the best case scenario is pretty incredible. Unlocking human potential, solving massive problems.
It's a powerful vision, but like we said, it comes with that heavy dose of caution.
Which is where Brett Weinstein's complex systems perspective really snaps things into focus.
Yeah, he drew this crucial line between things that are just complicated and things that are truly complex.
Okay, explain that difference.
A complicated system, like, say, a jet engine. It's got tons of parts, intricate rules, but if you understand them all, you can predict exactly how it will behave. It's deterministic.
That makes sense.
But a complex system, think a rainforest or the economy or human society, it has emergent properties. The interactions between the parts create unpredictable behaviors you couldn't guess just by looking at the individual components.
Okay, like a flock of birds suddenly changing direction together.
Exactly. And Weinstein's argument is that AI, especially these agents acting out in the world, interacting with everything, they've crossed the threshold. They're now firmly in the complex domain.
Which means?
Which means predicting their behavior just based on how they were trained. It's unreliable. They'll interact with the world in ways we can't foresee, leading to outcomes we didn't intend.
And that's why he talks about the potential for harm being that bigger infinity.
Precisely. Because the range of unintended negative consequences in a complex system can vastly outweigh the intended positive ones.
That's sobering. Giving an agent a goal, thinking it's simple, but finds some bizarre, destructive path to achieve it because we didn't specify things perfectly.
Right. And Weinstein really hammered the need for careful goal setting, but also critically for ways to pull back the reins, control mechanisms, off switches.
But can we even build reliable off switches for something truly complex and potentially super intelligent?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And are we even culturally ready?
Right.
Weinstein argued we lack the stories, the myths, the preparation for something this transformative.
He compared it to the invention of writing, didn't he? Something that fundamentally rewired society and how we think.
Yeah, but happening incredibly faster. Orders of magnitude faster.
Daniel Priestley had that analogy, too. The horses and cars one.
Oh, the New York City one.
Yeah.
Right, 1900, streets full of horses.
Just 13 years later, 1913, same streets, full of cars, horses basically gone.
And the speed of that displacement, for a creature so intertwined with us for so long,
Yeah.
it was totally unforeseen. A massive warning sign for human jobs now.
Okay, yeah, let's talk jobs, because that's the immediate gut-level fear for so many people. Who's at risk here? Amjad Masad was pretty blunt.
He really didn't mince words, did he? He basically said, if your job is as routine as it comes, your job is gone in the next couple of years.
Wow, that's soon. What kind of jobs did he list?
Things like QA testers in software, data entry roles, accountants performing routine tasks.
I remember asking about radiologists, highly skilled years of training.
And Amjad Masad agreed, yeah. Likely heavily impacted, though he did add that regulations might slow that down a bit. Bureaucracy as a speed bump.
But still impacted. The stats they shared were pretty stark, too.
Really stark. Like, the risk for jobs needing just a high school diploma Around 80% automation risk.
Compared to only 20% for jobs needing a bachelor's degree, that's a huge gap.
And that gender disparity number from the Harvard Business Review data, 80% of working women in at-risk jobs compared to about 50% of men. That's deeply concerning.
And it's global. Daniel Priestley pointed out the risk to business process outsourcing BPO jobs.
Right. In places like India, the Philippines,
Yeah.
millions employed in call centers, data processing, jobs that lifted people out of poverty.
And those are exactly the kind of routine information-based tasks that agents are getting good at. It threatens that whole economic model.
We're seeing it already, aren't we? That CEO from Claire.
Yeah, saying their AI customer service agents handle millions of chats, doing the work equivalent of, 700 people?
700 people. And Amjad Masad mentioned Replit itself uses agents internally.
And replaced 70% of their support functions.
70%?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not some future prediction. That's happening now, inside the tech companies building this stuff.
Which feeds directly into that worry about inequality just exploding.
Amjad Masad's 10x engineer becoming the 1000x entrepreneur.
Someone leveraging AI agents to be 1,000 times more productive, that's hard to even comprehend.
It creates this massive gap. Daniel Priestley's marathon analogy was so vivid.
The Formula One car versus shoes tied together.
Yeah. A future where some are making fortunes effortlessly while others literally can't find basic work. You worried about millionaires versus people unable to get a $15 an hour job.
And that potential outcome connects directly to Brett Weinstein's fear, doesn't it? The idea of elites starting to see large parts of the population as unnecessary.
As useless eaters. It's a horrible phrase, but it captures a genuine fear about societal breakdown if work disappears en masse.
And the speed, the scale. Both Weinstein and Priestley kept emphasizing that this feels different from past tech shifts. Not like the weavers smashing looms. This is potentially broader and much, much faster.
Beyond just the economy, though, the conversation went deeper, didn't it? Into these bigger societal, almost existential worries.
Yeah, like the crisis of meaning. If AI handles all the work, creates abundance, what do we do? What fulfills that human need to strive to be useful?
Daniel Priestley brought up that study of suicide notes, remember, the recurring theme, especially among men, of not feeling needed.
It's chilling. If work provides that sense of purpose for many, what happens when it's gone?
And Brett Weinstein tied it back to biology. We're wired to seek challenges, to overcome obstacles. What happens if AI smooths everything out, removes the struggle? Does that lead to, well, malaise, distress?
And then there's relationships, loneliness.
Daniel Priestley talked about falling birth rates globally, like South Korea's situation, and the loneliness epidemic.
And he linked it to technology, making it easier to avoid the hard parts of human connection.
Yeah, the struggle, the discomfort, the negotiation. If you can get companionship or validation from an AI or a curated online space easily, maybe the motivation for messy, real relationships declines.
That's a profound question for society. What happens to the social fabric?
And Brett Weinstein had that deep concern about truth itself, about AI making it even harder to know what's real.
The derangement of human intellect, he called it. Personalized reality bubbles, filter bubbles on steroids.
Where algorithms feed you exactly what confirms your biases, making shared reality impossible. He contrasted it with, say, Soviet propaganda, where people knew it was lies.
Right. They didn't know the truth, maybe, but they knew they were being lied to. AI manipulation could be invisible.
Though interestingly, he did also say current AI can sometimes help people spot gaslighting or manipulation in their own lives by analyzing conversations.
So, again, that double-edged sword. Tool for clarity, tool for deception.
And then there's the outright malicious use. Abuse, scams, theft.
Brett Weinstein went through a whole list, didn't he? AI trained on your creative work to steal your style and undercut you.
Personalized scams that know your exact weaknesses, your psychological blind spots.
I mentioned that AI voice scam, making it sound like your kid is in trouble.
And Daniel Priestley confirmed. Yeah, that's already happening. People are getting those calls.
Terrifying. Brett Weinstein's summary was basically, people have no idea how many ways they're about to get robbed.
It's a grim outlook on the security front. And that led into the fear of autonomous weapons.
Yeah, that seemed to be a universal concern among them. Lethal autonomous weapons, killer drones.
With both the U.S. and China investing heavily, taking the human out of the decision to kill.
And it's not just nation-state war. It's the potential for governments to use AI for internal control, oppression.
That example of facial recognition in Iran, supposedly used to automatically fine or detain women for hijab violations via their cars.
That's dystopian, doesn't even cover it. AI as judge, jury, and automated punisher.
Which brings up containment. Can we control this? Mustafa Suleiman says we must.
But Amjad Masad sounded skeptical. He argued that global competition basically makes containment impossible. Someone will always push ahead.
He even mentioned Nick Bostrom's idea that trying to build AI containment might accidentally lead to a global surveillance state just as bad, if not worse.
A cure worse than the disease, potentially. Wow.
And the final big existential worry they touched on, virtual worlds and the Fermi paradox.
Right. Why haven't we found aliens? Amjad Masad's idea was maybe advanced civilizations just check out.
Yeah, the concern that AI could create VR or simulated realities, so perfect, so compelling.
So much better than messy reality.
But people just withdraw, plug into the Matrix, or Ready Player One, essentially, lose all motivation to deal with the physical universe.
And that, he suggested, could be the answer to the Fermi paradox. Civilizations hit a point where they invent infinite digital pleasure and just stop exploring, stop expanding, stay home in the simulation.
It's a wild thought. Brett Weinstein had a different Fermi solution, of course. Tech eventually lets species wipe themselves out.
Also not exactly cheerful. Both pretty somber possibilities for where this could lead long term.
So, okay, we've got this picture. Immense potential, matched or even exceeded by immense risk. How on earth do we prepare? What did the debate suggest?
Well, one strong theme was moving away from narrow specialization in how we learn and work.
Daniel Priestley really pushed that, right? Saying specific skills get outdated so fast now.
Exactly. He argued for lifelong learning, constantly reinventing yourself. Education shouldn't be a one-and-done thing.
And Brett Weinstein echoed that with the need for a really general toolkit. Adaptability, thinking on your feet, being able to pivot quickly.
Because the ground is constantly shifting under us.
Daniel Priestley talked about how he tries to raise his own kids, aiming for high-agency generalists.
What does that mean exactly?
Motivated self-starters, basically. People who take initiatives, and giving them a broad range of skills and experiences. Chess, martial arts like jiu-jitsu, drama, coding, nature, business.
A bit of everything, so they can connect dots and adapt.
And critically, he stressed the difference between being a creator and just a consumer, especially now with AI. You need to be able to build to make, not just consume what the AI generates.
That feels really important. Don't just watch the movie, learn how to make one. Brett Weinstein also had that interesting idea about how to approach problems now.
Ah, the prototyping and navigating thing, instead of detailed blueprints.
Yeah, because the system is complex and unpredictable, you can't just plan everything out. You have to, build small test versions.
Right concepts, yeah. See what works, discover what you didn't know.
And then navigate, like a surfer reading the waves, constantly adjusting based on feedback, rather than following a rigid map.
Which points to a massive challenge for our education system, doesn't it?
Totally. Both Priestley and Weinstein basically said it's obsolete, designed for the industrial era, not this era of constant complex change.
It needs to teach kids how to handle novelty, how society works, how their own minds work. Not just facts and skills that might be useless in 5 years.
Though Amjad Masad did offer a potential bright spot within education using AI.
Oh, the tutoring point, the 2 sigma effect.
Exactly. That data showing one-on-one tutoring leads to dramatically better results, like 2 standard deviations better.
And his point was AI could potentially deliver that personalized one-on-one tutoring experience to everyone on the planet.
Which could be revolutionary. A way AI actually helps fix a broken system, potentially.
So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom. Despite all the very real risks, there were threads of hope in the conversation.
Definitely. Brett Weinstein himself, despite his cautions, said AI gives us the chance to refactor just about everything, to rethink and rebuild systems that aren't working.
He used that term adaptive valley, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, this disruption is a dangerous valley we have to cross.
No guarantee we make it out.
But if we navigate it successfully, we could reach a much better place on the other side, a higher peak.
Amjad Masad even had that vision of technology enabling, maybe paradoxically, a return to more human-scale living.
Walkable cities, local farms, community, supported by remote work, enabled by these new tools.
And I think just the fact that we're having these intense debates that people like Masad, Weinstein, and Priestley are engaging so deeply, that itself is a reason for hope, isn't it?
It suggests we're not sleepwalking into it entirely. We're aware, we're arguing, we're trying to figure it out.
And for individuals, especially those with ideas, Amjad Masad's core point still stands. The tools are becoming incredibly accessible.
Right. Replit and things like it, someone anywhere can potentially turn an idea into a real thing, maybe compete globally in ways that were impossible before.
So the big takeaway from this debate, it seems, is that the future is going to be radically different. Everyone agrees on that.
Yeah, the if isn't really debated. It's the when and the how disruptive it will be in the short term and whether we navigate it well.
We're facing this period of profound, fast, complex change. The debate laid it all out, incredible possibilities for good alongside these huge dangers.
Job losses, inequality, truth decay, loss of meaning, even existential risks.
Yeah.
But also empowerment, solutions to global problems, new forms of creativity.
It really forces you to think, doesn't it? About adaptability, about what skills matter, about what we value. It's not just tech talk. It's about what it means to be human going forward.
How we work, how we connect, how we find purpose. It's all on the table.
So let's end with a question for you listening to this, something to really chew on. Given everything we've heard, the speed, the complexity, the sheer scale of this AI agent revolution, that potential for a bigger infinity of harm alongside the infinite good, what do you think is the single most important quality, the most crucial thing individuals need to cultivate within themselves right now to not just get through this, but to actually thrive in the world that is rapidly coming into being?